Greatness shows up after you're tired. Let's say it one more time, man. Greatness shows up after you're tired, not when you're tired. And breakthroughs don't happen until you reach your breaking point. Been there many times, man, at that place I didn't want to go on, and I realized that strength can't develop until your strength is gone. You got to keep pushing, because character and courage is developed or lost when you decide to keep going or to give up. You see, that's the point. You got to stop, and you got to realize that's your breakthrough coming right there, because when others that are around you won't, you will be the one that goes ahead. Somebody has to step up and go a little bit farther. Is that somebody you? How many says that's me? I want to go a little farther.
Hey everyone, welcome to our show, FurtherMore, where you're going to find education, inspiration, and motivation. I'm Dr. Mark.
And I'm Dr. Michelle, and we're here to push you and encourage you to go a little farther in all aspects of your life and to do and become more than you ever thought possible.
So education is key, information is king, but wisdom will always remain supreme. So prepare yourself for the latest news and hottest headlines.
Truth bombs, amazing guests, relevant and impactful information, and life-changing plans. You are being prepared for the best days of your life.
So, you know what to do. Buckle those seatbelts and put those tray tables in the upright position and prepare for the best journey of your life.
Right here, right now.
On FurtherMore. We are so glad you're here, folks. This is going to be an incredible show. As always, we're going to push you and encourage you to go a little bit further in all aspects of your life. Today, too many people sit back and get satisfied with where they are when they could go so much further, right, sweetheart?
Well, that's right. And it is about time to turn over the new year. And isn't it the most important time to make that resolve right now in the present?
It's about hope, help, and freedom. And we've got to get more of all. So if you're out there and you're saying, I'm ready for some hope, I'm ready for some health, and I'm ready for some freedom, you're in the right place, folks. And we've got some exciting announcements to talk about.
Ding, 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 ding.
Our latest, newest movie, which is an
premiere.
incredible comedy. It is called Heaven's Date. And I know you're thinking, this is a movie about our first date. Well, it could be. But it's actually a movie we made, right? It's Heaven's Date, and you can see the information right on the screen. And yes, if you're in or near or want to come to the Tulsa area, we're going to have a great premiere, and the details are right there at the heavensdatemovie.com. You can also see the trailer. Or if you want to have access to the streaming of this, and you can have access the night of the event live up to 14 days later. And this is a big deal. This is huge because, sweetheart, this movie will not be available. It won't be in the theaters, the stores, anything like that for at least a year. So this is a real special occasion. This is a premiere, one-year event.
And guaranteed you will laugh till you have a bellyache.
Well, hopefully it's not a bellyache, because if it's a bellyache, make sure you're streaming it, not in person with us. So we want to watch the movie. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, go there right now to heavensdatemovie.com and you will see some incredible funny things. The site is great, but you'll be able to kind of get registered. So we'd love to have you if you're in Tulsa or want to come to Tulsa. We've got a gourmet Sherwood approved meal plan for you as well.
And we'd love to see you as well.
And our producer Liz is coming, so we're excited to see her. Yep, can't wait to see
You'll see her in person.
I know, right? As she likes to say, boom. There you go. All right, so we're going to get into this idea of accountability. My goodness, it is time for some of that, isn't it? We live in a world with a lack of accountability. When we think about accountability, there's a lot of different definitions, if you will, for what that really means. But we just thought we would pull out, what does this all wisdom Webster's dictionary say about definition of accountability?
Well, accountability is a relationship that's based on reciprocity, two sides, commitment, and actual mutual agreement. We want to be in agreement and provide positive feedback to one another. You actually share your life with this person. You share your hopes and you share your dreams. And you actually even share a mission that you might be on. And that's a safe place for you to be accountable.
I love the idea of accountability when it's done right, because when it's done right, you have this idea that you are responsible and you have an ownership in the mission you're on. It's like when you have this accountability partner person, you guys will remind each other of your account of your ability. I'm going to say that one more time. You're going to remind each other of your individual accounts that you have that are full of your ability. And if we can remember that that's the idea, it's not about pointing out something wrong, it's about pointing out something right. And this is so important for people today to understand this idea. When you look at this idea of accountability, you've got to be honest with yourself. You can't live a con job. You've got to have some courage to stand up for what's right, don't you?
Absolutely. And you have to be, you have to face the man in the mirror. Stop putting off your dreams and even own up to your mistakes. You know, boy, say you're sorry for your mistakes and move on. Don't just shrug off your feelings. Be accountable to them. Own them, walk through them, and get to the next step. And realize I probably don't know everything. And then you also want to find that loved one to provide you positive feedback. You know, that accountability partner?
Yeah, no doubt. We hold each other accountable. If I mess up, she's going to tell me, but it's not because she's trying to point out something wrong. She's looking out for my betterment. And many times it requires courage to stand up in the gap. It's called interpositional leadership, if you will, if you want the proper term. And there is really a great example of some of that in regard to the idea of self-governance and even leadership than our American hero, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller. Now, he stood up for a principle. He stood up for a reason. Maybe it didn't turn out the way he wanted or may he desired, but it was right. So we honor Lieutenant Colonel Scheller today by showing you this quick video, his video actually.
But the reason people are so upset on social media right now is not because the Marine on the battlefield let someone down. That service member has always rose to the occasion and done extraordinary things. People are upset because their senior leaders let them down, and none of them are raising their hands and accepting accountability or saying, we messed this up. If an 05 battalion commander has the simplest live fire incident EO complaint, boom, fired. But we have a Secretary of Defense that testified to Congress in May that the Afghan National Security Force could withstand the Taliban advance. We have chairmen of Joint Chief, who the Commandant is a member of that, who's supposed to advise on military policy. We have a Marine combatant commander. All of these people are supposed to advise, and I'm not saying we've got to be in Afghanistan forever, but I am saying, did any of you throw your rank on the table and say, hey, it's a bad idea to evacuate Bagram Airfield, the strategic air base, before we evacuate everyone? Did anyone do that? And when you didn't think to do that, did anyone raise their hand and say, we completely messed this up? I've got battalion commander friends right now that are posting similar things, and they're saying, you know, wondering if all the lives were lost and if it was in vain, all those people that we've lost over the last 20 years. And he goes on to say that we're all part of a chain. While every link may not be tested, the strength of the chain is only as strong as each link, and you got to be, good link, something like that. And what I'll say is, and from my position, potentially all those people did die in vain if we don't have senior leaders that own up and raise their hand and say, we did not do this well in the end. Without that, we just keep repeating the same mistakes. This amalgamation of the economic / corporate / political / higher military ranks are not holding up their end of the bargain. I want to say this very strongly. I have been fighting for 17 years. I am willing to throw it all away to say to my senior leaders, I demand accountability.
Wow, what an American hero. What a leader. Colonel Stuart Scheller. He is a hero standing for the American people. Get ready when we come back from break, another American hero, Kris Ann Hall, with a great constitutional segment. Stay tuned.
This is not something that is a Mark idea and a Michelle idea. This is a God idea. This thing right here has a 2-year shelf life. When we think about the problems we have in America with our food supply, what are we going to eat, what are we going to do? Stock up on something that's going to help you. This is organic pea protein, greens and reds, fibers, and multivitamins and minerals. It will stay good for 2 years. How many have wondered what you're going to eat if things go south? Kingdom Fuel right here.
She said to me, she's kind of one of the JAG people, you know, one of the attorneys for the military. She said, Mark, the military today can't even fit in their uniform, much less fight a war. She said, I'm concerned about the safety of America because of how we're caring for and feeding our troops. It is so sad what we have in our country, and no one wants to talk about this.
The God who gave us life gave us liberty at the same time. So if you're going to be in this, you got to be in it to the end. And the only way you can do that is if you are filled with the Spirit, filled with truth, and filled with courage.
And our television show, Furthermore, is carrying you further so that you will know more. And especially part of the more that's been really hidden, I would say, and really the product of great deception is the idea of the Constitution. And as always, we're bringing back our favorite constitutional attorney, Kris Hall. Kris, thanks for joining us today again. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much.
So here we are back, and you have built quite a foundation of teaching. You've lit people up about the necessity of being the 3.5% to
Right.
know the Constitution, know how to vet people. And we're going to go into an area that in my campaign, as you well know, this was one of our key central points. This idea of sovereignty, this idea of the 10th Amendment. What is that? And kind of teach us that so that we can break this down once again and make it applicable, that can have some legs in our lives.
Well, remember our first segment was realizing that we have to know some things, that we've been taught the wrong things for a very long time. Our second segment was really about pointing out the reality that there are some things that we've been taught that simply aren't true, and that there are some things that we have not been taught at all that are really, really incumbent, that are absolutely essential to us being the government that we need to be. And I'm so happy that you picked this to be segment number 3, because this is probably, in my mind, one of the most important foundational principles when understanding how American government is supposed to work. And in reality, it is the most mistaught portion of government in American education system. And remember, we talked about we don't know what we don't know. And there's a lot of things that we've been taught that simply aren't so. And this would be on the top of my list. People always say, what is the most mistaught thing about the Constitution? State sovereignty would be my always immediate answer, because I know for a fact that we stopped teaching the truth about the separation of power between the states and the federal government in 1833. So we have a long history, nearly 90 years of history of miseducation on this particular essential aspect of our constitutional republic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we have to understand is that what we're doing here today is just a glimpse. I have a book called Sovereign Duty. You can get it online at krisandhall.com. You can get it online in many other online forums. Sovereign Duty is a good understanding with all my notes in it if you want to take and learn this more. LibertyFirstSociety.com is our online training program where I teach a 2-hour class on state sovereignty. Now it's broken down into 10-minute segments, so you're not sitting there for 2 consecutive hours unless you want to. But this, I want you to understand, in this short segment is really just the beginning. And I would like to start with the most egregious attack on state sovereignty. And quite interestingly enough, it's not actually the 10th Amendment. It's Article 6, Clause 2 of the Constitution. Article 6, Clause 2 of the Constitution is what we commonly call the Supremacy Clause. And it is through the misteaching, the purposeful miseducation on the Supremacy Clause that we lose power in the states. So the Supremacy Clause is titled so because it creates the understanding, the legal understanding, that the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. It is the standard for federal government. The miseducation comes when people are taught that the Supremacy Clause is written to establish that the federal government is supreme law over the United States, and that federal laws and federal regulations and federal executive orders are superior to state constitutions, state laws, and state regulations. That is simply not so. And as a matter of fact, I mentioned before, you really only need a 6th grade reading education to understand the Constitution. And this lie about federal supremacy only perpetuates because the American population as a whole has been bullied into not actually reading the Supremacy Clause themselves. A simple reading of the Supremacy Clause tells us exactly what we need to know about the proper role of the federal government and the check and balance of the states on the federal government. A simple reading. Most people in America have never read Article 6, Clause 2. They've read a lot about Article 6, Clause 2. They've read what people have written about Article 6, Clause 2, but they've not actually read it themselves. Article 6, Clause 2, and I'm only going to recite for you a portion of it. So I want you to take the challenge to go read it yourself. It reads, "This Constitution, comma, and the laws of the United States made in pursuance thereof, semicolon, shall be the supreme law of the land." Now, that complex compound clause is actually 2 sentences. This Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land, which establishes that the Constitution, as I said, is the supreme law of the land. It is the standard for federal government. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing else.
And nothing more, nothing less, and nothing else. We are finishing with part 1. We'll come back next week with part 2 of this discussion on Article 6, Section 2 of the Constitution. But don't go away. When we get back from our break, we got one more segment. And we're going to talk about the greatest temptations that face all of us every day and how to beat them. Stay with us. Well, that's like a marriage made in hell, isn't it? You know, like I look at the Food and Drug Administration and think, what do they have in common? You know, Hippocrates, did he say, let drugs be thy medicine, or what did he say?
He said, let food be thy medicine, and let medicine be thy food.
Oh my gosh.
So therefore, the most important medical decision that you make every single day is at the end of your fork. We call it fork curls.
Yeah. I was trying to buy Laura Trump a gift for her birthday. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use some inside connections I have.
Mhm.
I'm going to call Sherwood, and I'm going to order some Kingdom Fuel.
Well, in my hand, I have Kingdom Fuel, and not because, we simply invented this thing. It's because it actually does supply a need, Clay. It's organic pea protein, which is the least allergenic potential of all of them out there. It has a complete fiber complex, soluble and insoluble, complete vitamins and minerals,
Wow.
and complete greens and reds. So it truly is a home meal for just under $5 per serving.
When we want to learn about how to control some of the biggest temptations in our life, we go to the Bible, the basic instructions before leaving earth, one of my favorite chapters, Matthew chapter 4, verse 1, that talks about the temptations of Christ. And in this verse, it says, afterward, the Holy Spirit led Jesus into the wilderness to experience the ordeal of testing by the accuser.
Yeah, and there's 3 temptations mentioned there. I mean, we clearly see the first one is turn these stones into bread if you're hungry. Why don't you? 40 days
What
is
a
a long time, man.
temptation.
But Jesus answers, you could see right there. How?
He certainly did answer. Do not go forward and be tested.
Nope. He says, man,
Jesus
don't let me
answered.
alone.
Yes.
That's it. It's really interesting because these temptations are out there, and there are 3 of them. Boom, boom, boom. Now, we're going to talk about those more next week, but we want to let you understand these 3 temptations are still around for us today. Here they are in this short video.
Then Jesus was led by the Holy Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted there by the devil. For 40 days and 40 nights he fasted and became very hungry. During that time the devil came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread." But Jesus told him, "No, the scriptures say, people do not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city Jerusalem, to the highest point of the temple, and said, "If you are the Son of God, jump off, for the scriptures say, he will order his angels to protect you, and they will hold you up with their hands so you won't even hurt your foot on a stone." Jesus responded, "The scriptures also say, you must not test the Lord your God." Next, the devil took him to the peak of a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. "I will give it all to you," he said, "if you will kneel down and worship me." "Get out of here, Satan," Jesus told him, "for the scriptures say, you must worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil went away, and angels came and took care of Jesus.
I hope you're catching that. There's 3 temptations there. Number 1, the temptation to allow food to satisfy a need that's much bigger. Number 2, we have this idea of putting God to the test. In other words, walking out in front of a bus, getting our legs run over, and asking God to give us a new leg. Doesn't make any sense. And number 3, the temptation for money, fame, power, and influence. They're all right there in Matthew 4, verse 1 through 11. And we're going to talk more about that next week, because you really got to understand these 3 temptations are really affecting everyone today. But that's all coming up next week, along with what?
We cannot wait to talk to you next time on Furthermore about why is this thing called snow and winter so difficult, and along with that, the benefits of good old vitamin D, why you need it and why it does a body good. Stay with us, stay tuned to get your understanding on about these important tips.
And make sure you begin the change with the man or the woman in the
Looking
mirror.
back at you in the mirror.
We'll see you next time.
Gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right.
I stand for truth. I'm an American. And you're trying to let me know that you know where I live?
As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat. the kids in the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their need? A son's disregard, a broken bottle top, and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the window, 'cause they got nowhere to go. That's why no one got to know. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you wanna make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Na 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 na. Oh well, oh deepest God, somebody's broken heart and a washed out dream. They follow the pattern of the wind, you see, 'cause they got no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me. Starting with the man in the mirror. Change his ways.
We cannot continue as we are. The trajectory of our nation is going in the wrong direction. It is not saved by the government. It's saved because the people are the government. They stand up and do the right things, regardless of the cost. I think of our founding fathers, the 56 people that signed the Declaration of Independence. 56, not 5,600. They had to have some courage and guts to put their life on the line for the right things. Do we have that, folks? Do you have that? How many have that kind of courage?